Hey, today we're going to be exploring variations on the four-wheel pose. So first, doing a couple of preparation postures to help us prepare opening the hips and the shoulders. And then we'll explore different ways that you can kind of progress and work on the four-wheel pose. If you do have a bit longer to practice, fantastic. If you could maybe first do some sun salutations and standing poses. But if you're just wanting a quick sort of technique video, then feel free to start right away with this. So we're going to first come down to lie on the back. I'm going to do a little bit for the hips and the core to begin with. So you can come hugging the knees into the chest, hands are nice and heavy. And then you're going to inhale, reach the feet up towards the ceiling. Exhale, lower the legs all the way down to hover. Knees come into the chest on the inhale, reaching the legs up. And exhale, legs come down again. Inhaling and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Just do this a couple more times. And then you're going to change direction. So legs come out on the exhale. Inhale, legs come up. Knees into the chest. Reach the legs away. Inhale and exhale. If it does feel quite intense on the lower back, bringing the legs so low, you could, instead of reaching the legs right out, you could bring the legs kind of just halfway or keep the legs a little bent. Doing this one more time. And then we're going to do the same thing a little bit with the hips. So knees are coming wide, legs are going to extend. Inhale, legs come up, feet together, knees wide. Extend, legs up. Doing this a couple of times. And then we'll do that the opposite way. So legs down, feet together, knees wide, legs come in. And exhale, inhaling, and exhale. And then you can just bring knees into the chest, rock a little side to side. And then from here, inhaling, coming up to sitting. Great. Come over through the hands and knees. Now we're going to do a low lunge here. If you've got a block, you could experiment putting a block or a cushion under the back knee to just give the hip flexor a bit more space. So we're going to put left knee either on the block or it could be on the ground. Right foot steps forward. Hands come to the hips here. So we're opening the left side of the hip. Left foot can be tucked or extended. I personally, with the extra height, I prefer the foot tucked here. Hands can be on the hips. And you're just taking a couple of slow, steady breaths. So for that four-wheel pose, we really need that space here through the front of the hip flexor. So we're just already creating that space now. A couple of breaths if you like, right foot a little further, hips sinking a little more forward. And then you can exhale, release. We'll change sides. So block comes under the right knee, left foot steps. I personally prefer these kind of softer foam blocks since, it gives a little bit of cushioning here for the knee. The other thing you could try if you've got a harder block is putting a cushion between the block and your knee. So we're opening here front of the right hip flexor, gazing a little forward. Nice, slow, steady breath. If you like, you could take a couple of breaths, hips sinking a bit more forward. Left foot might come a little further away if you've got the space. So particularly if your left foot was closer and the knee was coming right over, it's a nice indication that you can step the foot wider and have a little bit more space here. Staying here, one more breath. And then you can slowly come out through the hands and knees. And then we're going to do a little bit with the shoulders. So you can come with your hands interlaced, elbows are nice and heavy. And you're going to lift up through the hips here. So you're on the balls of the feet, you're bending the knees, and you're seeing if you can send your upper body back towards the legs. So by having the heels super high and the knees a little bent, it will create more space here to draw the front of the torso towards the front of your thighs. You're engaging the shoulders, you're lifting up out through the shoulders here. And then you can exhale, release, and just soften out a few breaths in your child's pose. We'll do this one more time. So again, elbows under the shoulders, interlace through the fingers, tuck through the toes, lift up through the hips. Slightly bend the knees here, gazing back. And instead of sinking shoulders down, you're lifting up out through the shoulders here. And then slowly release, come back again to your child's pose. Elbows could be lifted or elbows could be heavy, shoulders more relaxed. And then you can slowly come up here. Now, I'm again going to use the blocks here. If you don't have blocks, you could use some sort of bit of furniture. So maybe the arm of a sofa is quite nice to use instead. The elbows are going to be on the blocks, your hands together. And you're bringing the knees a little back and sinking the chest a little down, dropping the head down. Now, your head might sort of touch the floor. If that feels nice, you can do that. If it's more up, that's also fine here. So we're kind of lengthening through the front of the shoulder and front of the arms here. Staying here, one more breath. And then you can slowly come up, just coming to your elbows, do a couple of shrugs here of the shoulders. And then we'll do this one more time. So again, you're walking the knees back. You might drop the head a little down here. And you could play with having the fingertips either reaching right up to the ceiling or drawing the hands towards the back of the neck. You'll find it kind of targets different parts of the shoulder. For me, with the hands coming more to the neck, that's a little tighter, but also a little bit more intense. Staying here 2 more breaths. Slowly coming up. We'll do a couple of shrugs of the shoulders. And then you can just move the blocks to the side. And then you're going to come first, hands under the shoulders, knees under the hips. And then you're going to start to walk the hands a little forward and drop the chest down here. Now, if this feels quite intense, hands could be closer, chest a little higher. So you might start a little bit like this. So it is quite different to the child's pose here. And then arms might come a little forward. Other thing you could play with for a little bit less intense, hips forward. So instead of hips kind of drawing back, that's a little deeper for the back. You could be a little more with the hips coming in front. We'll stay here 3 more breaths. And then inhaling to slowly come up again. Now we're going to now come down onto the belly. So this is our last real preparation before we do the variations of the full wheel. So this pose, Dhanurasana, is really kind of an upside down version of the wheel pose. You're going to bend your knees. Reach the hands back. If you can, you're holding sort of somewhere on the ankles here. And then you're pressing the feet away, pressing the feet a little up, and inhale, starting to lift up through the legs and through the upper body. If it's quite intense, you could come out and in of the pose. So you might exhale, drop, and inhaling back up again. Exhale and inhale. Staying here 1 more breath. And then slowly releasing. Coming back through the hands and knees and coming to child's pose. From here, you can come up. So we're going to be starting with the bridge pose, which is the first really variation that works up towards the full wheel pose, Urdhva Dhanurasana. So you can come to lie down on your back. Feet are hip distance apart here. Arms are alongside the body. Now you're pressing the feet down, pressing the shoulders down. And then on the inhale, you're going to start to lift up through the hips. And if you can, walk the shoulder blades a little together. So you might try interlacing the fingers here. So you're grounding through the back of the shoulders. You're lifting up through the chest. Keep the legs super active. So feet are heavy, knees are drawing towards your feet. Try to keep the belly a little firm. And then exhale, slowly releasing. And you can just pause a moment, knees bent, lower back nice and heavy. Now, to begin with, this version can feel quite heavy. So if you felt that, if you noticed, for example, your breath became a little shorter, less smooth, you can keep working on this for a period of time until you start to create that space in the chest and that engagement through the legs. We'll do this one more. If you've got blocks, you could try bringing blocks under the feet, and that way you can create a little bit more space in the hip flexors. If you don't have blocks, you can just do the same thing with the feet on the mat. So usually doing things twice helps create a bit more space in the body. So you can come again to lie down on the back, feet grounding, this time into the blocks or into the mat. Inhale, start to lift up through the hips. Again, try to walk the shoulder blades in, interlace through the fingers. Toes are heavy, hips are lifting. Slow down the inhale and the exhale. And then exhale, slowly release. So you can just slowly drop the hips down. Maybe hug the knees into the chest. Just pause here, a couple of slow, steady breaths. Now we're going to move up towards the full wheel pose. So you can just move the blocks again to the side if you were using them. Feet are going to be flat on the floor again. Setup to begin with is the same. So we're lifting up through the hips. Your feet can come a little bit wider if you need that space, but try to avoid toes reaching right out. So if you need that extra space, just walk both feet a little wider out to the side. Lift up through your hips. And this time, hands are coming back. And again, if shoulders are a little tighter or you're new to the pose, try bringing the arms a little wider out to the side. So hands are roughly in line with the shoulders. You can see the positioning might be slightly different. Hands are down, elbows are lifted here. If this feels uncomfortable, you can stay with that position, fingers interlaced. If you're quite comfortable here, you might lift up, just coming to the crown of the head and getting a little bit of use to the position here. So try to lengthen through the front of your hip flexors, lengthen through the back, firm through the belly, and then exhale, dropping the head down, letting the back come down, and just pausing here, a couple of slow, steady breaths. And often it's the transitions you want to be careful about as well, not just the poses themselves. So we're going to try this one more time. So your choice if you lift just the hips or if you change the positioning of the hands. Inhale once more, lift up through the hips. Now you can stay here or you can bring the hands forward a little out. You might stay here or you might come again to the crown of the head. Once you're on the crown of the head, try to lengthen here through the spine. And then exhale, changing the position. So back of the head comes down, come out nice and slow. And then you can just bring the back onto the mat again and take a couple of slow and steady breaths. So we're going to try this time experimenting how it feels to press up into the arms. So feet again are set up, hands down a little out to the side. Really press the hands, press the feet. Lift up first through the hips, coming from here to the crown of the head. And then pressing, if it feels comfortable, up through the chest here. Now you could have the knees a little bent, or you could try lengthening the legs sending the weight of the chest a little forward. So when I say forward, I mean away from the feet. Slowly inhaling, slowly exhaling, and then exhale, dropping the head down, relaxing. Bring the knees into the chest and rocking the knees a little from side to side. Now there's one other variation I'd like to show. First, we'll come back to having the shoulders on the ground, because this can be a nice transition if it doesn't feel so comfortable bringing the crown of the head or pressing up. But you're equally feeling that the bridge pose is quite comfortable. So you can inhale, start to lift up through the hips. Now, if you like here, for a different positioning, you could place the hands under the lower back. So elbows are down, chest is lifting. Again, it gives a little bit more height and space. If you don't like that so much, you could again interlace the fingers here. Now, this time we're keeping the left foot heavy. We're going to inhale, right knee comes into the chest, and then reaching that right leg up. And instead of sinking the right hip down, you really want to lift your right hip, extend the right leg up to the ceiling. Great. You can slowly exhale, drop that right foot down, and then inhale, change side. So left knee comes in, hips are high, left leg extends up. You could just start with one breath, building up to a few breaths. And then exhale to release, releasing the hands, dropping the hips down, and bringing the knees in, rocking side to side. We'll finally play with this version with an option in the four wheel pose. So you can bring again the feet flat on the floor. Hands come again a little wider to give that space through the shoulders. Now press into the ground with the feet. Inhale, lift up through the hips, firm the belly, come to the crown of the head. Again, you can stay here or be with shoulders on the ground. Inhale, start to lift up through the arms. Now left foot is heavy, right knee comes in, right leg lifts up. Left knee comes in, left leg lifts up. And then exhale, slowly releasing, bringing knees into your chest. And then we'll just finish with a couple of counterposes, so knees wide, holding ankles or outside of the feet. Happy baby. If you like, rocking side to side. And then legs come into the chest, legs could be a little bent, knees hugging in. And finally, feet together, knees apart. You can close the eyes here. And we'll stay here, or you could extend legs out for about another minute or so. Slowly bringing awareness back to your body again. You can bring the knees in, roll over onto one side, and just finding your way up to sitting again. So thanks for joining me through this practice, exploring different variations of the full wheel pose. It's worth remembering it's quite a challenging yoga posture. So to begin with, you might be just working a little bit on the preparation and maybe, the bridge pose, variations of the bridge pose. And then over time, you can start by first, finding that position of the hands, requiring quite some opening and stability in the shoulder, and then kind of exploring coming up into that full wheel. If you do have any lower back pain, I'd suggest focus a bit more on strengthening through the belly and maybe working and staying with those preparation postures a little longer so you avoid aggravating your lower back. Curious to hear how you found the practice. Do let me know. And if you're looking for a free resource for practicing yoga at home, you can check out the link in the description of this video. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time. Bye.